Well, we have a very interesting lady joining us, award-winning author LORR-ANGEL. Good morning, Lorraine. How are you today?
Good morning. Very well. It's a lot earlier here, but...
Where are you at?
Los Angeles, watching the sunrise.
Oh,
really
my goodness.
pretty.
It is a little bit early there. Yes, watching the sunrise. That sounds wonderful. A beautiful sunrise. You close to the ocean? Actually, you'd be watching the other
no, we're
direction.
in the canyon.
Ah, beautiful.
True. Our canyon view faces the sunrise. So.
Excellent. And Canyon, Linda Ronstadt and Eagles and all that. That's Laurel Canyon. Yeah, happening place.
Yeah.
Well, I have to talk about you a little bit. Some fun facts, if you will, about LORR-ANGEL, author, and we'll get into Louise Moscow Mysteries in a moment. But you lived in Paris for 7 years. What was that like? Do you speak French?
Yes, of course. I was a French major, and I kind of expatriated to Paris right after university for, romantic reasons. And so it was pretty roller coaster ride and big city for me. I'm from Chicago, which is a big city, but it's not. It still feels a little bit like a small town compared to places like Paris or Manhattan. But they call Paris locally. They call Paris la plus belle poubelle du monde, which is the most beautiful trash can in the world.
Well said. And you went to DePaul University in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent.
Correct.
You had a role in a famous European film. What was that?
Right. That's called in French La Double Vie de Véronique, and it's The Double Life of Veronique, which is a Krzysztof Kieslowski film, beautiful classic film. And that was his first Western European movie. He's Polish origin, and then he went on to become a really even more renowned global director, not just Polish film director. So wonderful experience working with him.
Oh, neat. This one really jumped out at me. I started reading Mad Magazine when I was a boy. Then my older brother had National Lampoon. I read it in the years when John Hughes, before he started making films, was writing. He was hilarious. Oh my God, he was so funny. Amazing. I can't even talk about a couple of my favorite stories on radio. They must have had some financial issues. You went in and kind of turned them around a little bit. That must have been pretty cool, hanging out with funny people.
It was amazing, classic filmmaking. In fact, the movies Vacation and Animal House were based on the Lampoon magazine articles, 2 articles. So, and Maddie Simmons, who was one of the original producers and writers, I think they call it Harvard Lampoon, the magazine now, because it still has some royalties that go back to Harvard Lampoon. But anyway, he was around always at the office, and what a wonderful, sweet, jovial, sharing man. He passed a couple years ago. But what just such classic filmmaking and humor, like you said, just groundbreaking at the time. But yeah, we were public on the gray sheets, and then when we went onto, I think, Pacific Stock Exchange, there were a lot more compliance issues, so we brought it back into compliance. And
let's get to you. You've been in the financial world. Tell us briefly a little bit about that, and then we'll get into your books or your latest Devil's Ledger, but maybe lead us a little bit into how you went from a career into book writing and kind of making the main character kind of is you, isn't it?
Definitely, especially her inner voice is definitely, obviously you draw on your own experience for the genuine depiction of surrounding and psychology and all of that. And then I do like to use places that I've traveled to, because I do travel quite a bit. So that I do draw from all of that. So yeah, obviously I take a lot of creative license on some of the adventures and stuff, but I worked in film production, and then kind of got out of film for a while and moved to Silicon Valley, and that's when I switched to finance because it just made sense to me that I had originally was going to have a degree in accounting, and I kind of just ended up getting a degree in French and a minor in accounting, and then I went full circle to doing accounting work because it was easy to kind of break into that again and get out. When you switch careers, you kind of want to do something that you are familiar with, that you can anyway move up fast in. So I worked in Silicon Valley in pre-IPO companies during the dot-com era. That was really, really exciting. What a fun time to be in San Francisco area and Silicon Valley at that time. And then I worked my way up to CFO at some smaller pre-IPO companies that were tech companies, software companies. And then I just segued back to Hollywood because there was a pre-IPO film company, or it was actually a reverse merger. They were going public by merging with a shell public company, which is one of those maneuvers that you can do to make it a little bit easier to go public. And so they had to do a lot of preparation for that. And so it made sense that I had a film production background and finance pre-IPO background. So I segued back into Hollywood that way. And then Lampoon recruited me for a similar situation, which was a secondary public offering. So there's a lot of preparation to get that, to do that kind of a thing. All the compliance, all the SEC compliance rules and things like that. There's quite a lot of paperwork behind doing any of those kind of things. Yeah. Then I was kind of toying with writing screenplays, and my husband, who's a big film producer, he's real Hollywood royalty. He would read my scripts, and he's like, your style is more geared toward novels. I think because, my intensity and my storytelling style, and it just made sense. It's just stuck in my mind. And so then I remembered this one story for my first novel, Foliage. I remembered living through that experience of BCCI, that bank, blowing up, and that international banking scandal in Paris. A lot of my friends worked at that bank at the time. It was a huge scandal. This third world bank had grown really fast, and it was basically just a pyramid scheme. And I remember the day when it closed down, and so I just thought that was a great scandal. I wrote, it's finance related, it's Paris, so I made my first book about that, and that's how Louise Moscow started.
Well, now you are on the Devil's Ledger, I should say, and this is number 4. Is that right?
3.
Number 3. Novel. Okay. Yeah. And tell us a little bit. We're winding down in our interview here, but tell us a little bit about your latest book, The Devil's Ledger. Well,
that is I feel that this book is the one that really brings together all the different banking scandals in the world. My books tend to go like every 10 years, what's happened with the next international banking scandal. And this book is just amazing what I found out when I start researching, because I really research heavily all of these stories. And that's how I discovered that medieval bank in Siena, Italy, the Monte dei Paschi Bank, and it all revolves around that. That's where modern banking started, at that bank really from the roots from the 1400s, but then in its current state, basically the 1600s. But it's an ancient bank, and I was just mesmerized by all the stuff. And then it got pretty much destroyed by the Deutsche Bank practices of lending and usury of these lending and banking practices. So it's a tragedy for banking, but it's fascinating what all goes on behind the scenes of these banks, of international banking.
It sounds extremely interesting. If folks want to check out your book, your first 2, and also The Devil's Ledger, your latest, how do they maybe get a sneak peek at it, or order it, or whichever way they can take a peek at it?
The easiest way is go to LorraineEvanoff.com, and you can see it's wide. It's on, everything from Barnes and Nobles, Apple Books, Kobo, and Amazon. But if you just kind of go to my website, LorraineEvanoff.com, you'll get all the links you need there, or just Amazon if that's the easiest, Kindle and paperback.
Certainly going to pass this along to my wife. She's a big Kindle reader. Yes.
Oh,
yeah,
awesome! Yes,
she'd love it. It sounds so interesting. Is your husband interested in turning any of these into a movie?
Well, he's just more interested in fishing and golfing, but I get that a lot. And I do have I have actually unrelated screenplay in development right now. So you never know. Maybe that could be the next project. We'll see.
Good for you.
Non-husband related, of course.
You seem extremely interesting. You probably, well, I know you're involved, as part of this, but your life is very interesting. I have a picture of you. You got a killer smile. You must, you can tell you enjoy life and all that life brings you, Lorraine. So thanks so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure talking with you, Lorraine Evanoff, author of Louise Moscow Mysteries. Lorraine, you take care, okay?
You too. Take care. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you very much.
Set out to run, but I take my time. A friend of the devil is a friend of mine.